Hey, this is Raven again with a tip for all of you people that are getting outdoors a lot. I teach survival skills. This is one of the base camps here in the beautiful North Carolina mountains. And I just want to talk to you today about what are your survival priorities, because as I talked about in one video, the number one thing, the number one killer is just making mistakes, thinking about what you don't have instead of what you do have, and knowing what to do when you're lost. But the number two killer in a survival situation is exposure to the elements. So that's when things like shelter becomes very important. Well, I'm going to tell you the 4 priorities of survival that you need to keep in mind, and these 4 are shelter, fire, water, and food. Now all these 4 are important, and also in that order is very important too, because you don't have, fire is a good thing to have, but you don't have to have it immediately. For example, over here in the background you see a shelter here. This is called a debris shelter, and all this is branches that have been stacked up in a way and covered with debris, and you can crawl inside here in this shelter and it will keep you warm. I've personally stayed in it in 15-degree weather and snow and ice and jeans and a t-shirt just to test it, and I stayed perfectly warm in this shelter right here. So this is a life-saving shelter that's easy to build. Shelter is your first priority, because you got to get out of the elements. You got to get out of whatever it is, whether it's heat or whether it's cold or whether it's rain. If you need to choose your clothing wisely, because even if you choose clothing that's going to get soaking wet, then you're going to have to get that clothing off, believe it or not. You're actually better off without wet clothes on than to walk around with wet clothes on. And build yourself a shelter. This is going to keep you safe for the night. Your next priority though is fire. Fire is very important, and you need to know some ways of making fire. You can't always depend on matches and butane lighters. Anybody that knows anything about butane lighter, whether you smoke or not, then you know a butane lighter runs out of fuel, and it becomes unreliable. Matches get wet. I personally don't even carry matches in the woods anymore. I carry some of the modern fire strikers and stuff that make sparks and things like that. Those are much more reliable. Fire is very important also because you can boil water for purifying your water. You can also make tools. It's also good for cooking. It's also good for just the companionship and the safety. Most animals are afraid of fire, so if you have a fire going, it's going to protect you from predators. And if somebody's searching and rescuing for you, they're going to see the smoke, they're going to see the flames. So fire is very important, plus it warms you too. You got to be very, very conscious of your body temperature, especially like in a cold situation. Your body temperature drops and you start shivering. That's early stages of hypothermia, believe it or not. But if it gets bad enough, you stop shivering, and then you're really in trouble. And then your body starts shutting down, and that's why you see things like fingers and ears and noses start getting black and falling off, because your body's trying to protect its core. It's going to protect the core, the heart, the brain, the lungs, above everything else, and it'll start shutting your body down. You don't want to get in that situation. The next priority that's very important is water. Now, why do you think that water would be more important than food? Well, the reason why is because you can survive, if you're a healthy person, depending on your size and your health, you can survive 30 days or more without food if you had to. But you can only survive 4 days without water. Now, I know probably what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, I hadn't drank any water in about a week. But you drank something, some tea or coffee or something with liquid in it. But you get in a survival situation and you're out of water. What do? Your body needs that water, and in 4 days, believe it or not, you could be dead just from dehydration. So you want to take note of things like that, like your urine will get darker in color. Your skin should bounce right back when you pinch it. If it doesn't, then you're getting dehydrated. And there's other signs, just feeling real thirsty and that kind of thing. Don't put rocks in your mouth and things like that, like a lot of books say, because that doesn't do anything for you. You've got to have a water source. First of all, plan on taking a water source with you in the woods. If you don't carry a canteen with you, that's sufficient. You can't just drink out of any stream, unfortunately, these days with pollution like this. So you need some filtration device, and there's ways to build those in a survival situation, but there's also some really good modern ones that you can buy that are real compact and there's even the cups. You can just scoop water up out of the water, and it's got a filtering straw on it, and you can just drink right out of the stream that way if you wanted to. So, but then your last priority is food, and then food is very, very important. But like I said, if you have to, go without it. If you don't have water, don't eat food. That's one of the big rules, because your body uses up a tremendous amount of water when in the digestive process. So you want to be very careful about having that priority. Make sure you got it right. Just don't eat. No matter how hungry you are, you might have food and not have water. Resist the urge, because it could actually, unless it's giving you some water back in that food also, like some plants or something like that, then you could actually put yourself in trouble. And don't drink seawater. Don't drink blood, don't drink urine, always get good water. Fresh water is important, because everything in a survival situation is important. Every little cut can get infected. You get out there, you just think about putting a Band-Aid on it and stuff, but out there you can't. You know, so everything is important, and you got to pay attention, you know, but that's your priority: shelter, fire, water, and then food. Keep those priorities in mind, keep those in that order, and it'll better your chances of survival in a situation. That's my tip for the day.